Hi, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and jump into chapter 8, which is going to be focusing on proposals. So last chapter was about reports. Now it's going to be the other aspect, which is proposals. So what are proposals? This is a document written to convince your readers on to adopt an idea, a product, or a service that you can offer. How I like to remind my students is one key difference between reports and proposals. Reports explain your research, where proposals try to persuade your reader. So your readers, when they're reading a report, you're explaining something to them. When they're reading a proposal, you're trying to persuade them on something. This can be directed to your colleagues. That's usually an in-house proposal, clients outside of your organization, sales proposals, or also organizations that fund research. Those are usually grant proposals. Just like with reports, they can be presented in short and simple formats, informal proposals. If it requires something more complicated, more content, that's where a formal proposal comes into play. You can also submit it without a request, which is unsolicited proposals. Also, I probably should have flagged this at the beginning. This is another big chapter, but I'm not sure if we're going to need to take breaks because a lot of this information, after this slide, a lot of this information is repeat information from the reports chapter. So even though there's a lot of content in this chapter, it's a very repetitive. So we might just fly through it. So I'm not sure if we'll take a break. I will flag and let you know, hey, we're going to pause. I'm going to stop recording, go and watch the next video. But let's see if we can power through all of these. So with proposals, you're going to be usually dealing with RFPs. And from this point on, we're going to be referring to proposals and RFP, not in the abstract, but thinking that we are going to be responding to an RFP. So an RFP is a request for proposal. This is usually sent out by organizations that want to receive proposals for a product or service that you can offer. RFPs give very specific guidelines on what the proposal should cover, the deadline, who to address, and also other aspects such as font, required documents, required information that they might need to make their decision. As a writer, you follow the RFP exactly because the client is literally telling you, hey, like, this is the RFP, this is everything that we need. It's essentially giving you a template. You know how to respond. So since the client is specifically asking for something in the RFP, make sure you are addressing every single need and also every single request that they are asking for. I created this little chart on the right kind of to show you the process of how it works. Like I said, the RFP is from the organization, the proposal or interested companies who are responding, and then usually it depends on your industry, it depends on the organization. Sometimes the organization reviews all of the proposals and they don't require like a callback. Sometimes they narrow it down to like 4 or 5, and then you're invited for like a first round of like interviews, usually presentations on your proposal. Sometimes they would go through second or third round before they decide on the actual person or the actual company they're going to select. Once you are selected, that's when the contract comes into play. That's the legal binding document between the organization and yourself, where it lists the services, the cost, everything that was listed in your proposal. Then you go on to do the work, the project. Depending on the industry, it may not be one specific project. For example, my previous job, I worked at a public relations agency. All of our clients that we took on was because we responded to an RFP and we had to win that work. And we were just the PR agency on retainer. Same thing with lawyers, actually. We had a billing rate. We provided multiple, like a wide variety of services. So even though I put project right here, sometimes you're just on retainer. So it's just the work that you're going to be doing. And also, depending on the client, maybe it is one massive project, and then you have to provide the report, which, if you remember chapter 7, that's what pretty much what it is. So, like with informal reports, informal proposals are short documents that cover projects with a limited scope. And just like reports, proposals have guidelines as well. With informal proposals, it's usually when the text is no more than 5 pages, excluding attachments. Sometimes an informal report is needed if the size of the proposal is pretty small, or even if the client expressed a preference. Remember, always follow what the client listed in the RFP. On the right are all of the proposal guidelines. And that's what I said. Like, we might just fly through this because, as you can kind of tell, a lot of this is very repetitive and it's something we went over in chapter 7. There are some things that are different. So let's see how far we can get with one sitting. The first guideline is plan well before you write, obviously. So, like with your reports, consider what your purpose is. Who is your audience? What's the organization? Review the RFP. What's everything that the client requested? Two factors that can make your planning beforehand difficult is one, you may not know much about the client besides what is written on the RFP. And also, proposals are often on a tight schedule, which limits your planning time. So, for example, say it's May 1st, you see an RFP, but the deadline is May 15th. It's all hands on deck. I've been a part of a couple RFP business development meetings and planning process, and it's a doozy. It's a lot. It's intense. It is very fast paced. A lot of my strategy meetings were like 2 hours, just going over everything. We constantly practiced our presentations. It can be a lot. So just, think of those two factors when you're trying to plan. Sometimes you may not get plenty of time. And also identify who your decision makers are. That way, as we said from chapter 1 and all the other content we reviewed, plan your writing around your reader and what their needs are. So, the second guideline is when with informal proposals, use letter or memo format. I figured showing an example of a memo proposal would help more because the rules are the same from a report memo. So, line spacing is singular, maybe 1.5 or double. List the recipient's name and the date. Make sure there's page numbers, especially if there's going to be more than one page. Make sure you're using headings so everything reads and flows well. As you can see on here, you see the background. What are your objectives, time frame, budget? A lot of that is going to be important and should be listed on your memo. Another guideline is make sure your text is visually appealing. Remember, you are selling a product, a service, or an idea that you have. So you want to look nice, but also you're not going to be the only person responding to this RFP. There's going to be other organizations competing for the same client. So you need to make sure you stand out from the competition. So some pointers to help make your text visually appealing. One, use lists, whether that's bullet points, numbers to highlight your main ideas. Once again, follow the RFP, follow your reader's preference as to font size, typing, line spacing, etc. And then, of course, another repeat, use headings and subheadings to break up big blocks of text. Another repeat offender, use ABC format for organization. Same concept from throughout the book that we will see. Same thing from the reports chapter that we reviewed. Abstract, body, conclusion. Abstract, a brief overview, maybe your introduction. Body is going to be the main aspect of your memo, of your proposal, your report. It's the main thing. It's showing your research. It's listing the services that you can provide. It's listing in regards to RFPs and you're trying to secure this client. It's listing the services that you can provide, the team that you have, all the different wide variety of services you can offer, cost, and so forth. And then conclusion, which is just wrapping up. And also the conclusion with RFPs is your final say, your final chance on leaving a lasting good impression. Another guideline, create the abstract as your intro summary. In an abstract, you capture the client's attention with a capsule summary of the entire proposal. So this is usually 1 to 2 paragraphs to let your readers know what to expect. You want to list your purpose of the proposal, You want to list your reader or the RFP's main need or the problem you think you can solve, main features you can offer, as well as related benefits, and also just an overview what to follow. Another guideline is putting important details in the body. Your discussion proposal should address all those questions on the left. So, what problems are you trying to solve and why? Who will do the work and with what? When will it be done? How much will it cost? When it comes to responding to an RFP, being transparent with all of the information is going to be so critical and so key. You want to be come across as transparent and as honest, as reliable. So you don't want to hide anything. You want your client, your potential client to know this is the team that we can offer. We have a team of 15 people, and these are all of the services we can provide. Because we have a team of 15 people, this is why it costs this, the amount X. And then you break down the amount. When it comes to the body and the discussion format, it can vary. You can list a description of a problem or project. You can do like a proposed solution or approach. So you list the problem and then here's your proposed solution. Also, you want to make, like I said, discuss personnel, schedule, and cost all in the discussion or the body of your proposal. As any good salesperson knows, customers must feel that they need your product or service or idea before they can be convinced to purchase or support it. So lay the groundwork by showing the readers that there is a strong need, it exists, validate them. Give attention to restating the basic needs of the reader. Let them know, like, hey, I understand you have a need. It is serious. And here's what I can do to solve that. So that shows that you understand the client's problem. But also, it shows that you understand the connection between their problem and the solutions you are providing. Another guideline, focus attention in your conclusion. So this is going to be where it's a little bit more different from a report, conclusion or closing. This section gives you the opportunity to control the reader's last impression of you. So you want to emphasize a main benefit or a feature of your proposal. Restate your interest in doing the work and that you can do the work, and then indicate what should happen next. Ask if there's any questions. Usually you do this during the live presentations. If you submit it, like just submit it through email, say you'll follow up, or list how to contact you or your organization. Informal proposal guidelines, the final two, use attachments for less important details. This can be did you reference any visuals? Do you have a cost chart? Maybe an organization chart laying out your team dynamics. And make sure you edit carefully. This is super important because proposals can be considered contracts in a court of law in some states. So you want to make sure that you are listing the accurate numbers, especially when it comes to this form of thinking. And obviously you want to make a good impression, duh. So make sure you're proofreading, make sure you edit carefully. Those were informal proposals. Now we're going to focus on formal proposals. However, this is all the same information from formal reports. Depending on how complex the request is, you may need to submit a formal response to a proposal. This is usually when the text is more than 5 pages. The size and importance needs a formal proposal or the client requested it. Similar rules to formal reports and proposals, ABC format, your abstract, your body, and your conclusion. Title page, make sure you list the project title, names, and date is listed. Exec summary, avoid technical jargon, make brief mention of the problem, proposed solution, and also the cost. The cost is going to be very important when it comes to your proposals, especially when you're responding to an RFP, because like I said, you want to come across as transparent, But also the client is going to want to know, like, okay, thank you for letting us know that you can do all this cool stuff. What's the bottom line? How much is this going to cost me? Your intro should include info on the purpose, description of the problem or the RFP you're responding to, scope, and format. There are a couple things I wanted to focus on that might be different from the reports chapter. The body or discussion section and your conclusion. Those are a little bit different compared to reports or even your informal proposal. Traditionally, the discussion of a formal sales proposal contains three basic types of info: technical management and cost. I mean, also technical sections, management, and cost. So, three. You usually don't see those, obviously, in your formal reports. And since this is a formal proposal, you don't even list this in your informal proposal. So for formal proposals, it is very important where you list these three aspects in your body or discussion section. Technical sections can be where you are responding to the client's concern. Follow their organization plan from the RFP, use frequent subheadings with specific wording, back up all your claims with facts. So if you are claiming that, for example, I'm just going to stick with the RFP that I previously worked on. We're trying to take on a client, proving that we can do the public relations work they require. We backed up these claims with saying like we can secure coverage in national media like the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. We backed up those claims with previous examples of current clients of where we were able to secure them in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the Today Show. So always back up your claims with very specific facts and examples. Your management sections describe who will do the work. They explain when will the work be done. Also, this displays your schedule. Depending on the industry and what the client is requesting, sometimes it's specific delivery dates. Are you going to have weekly check-ins with the client? Monthly check-ins? Do you have quarterly presentations to show the progress of what you're doing? And also in the management sections, you're going to discuss or highlight personnel qualifications. So this is usually where you have a larger team and you highlight the people on your team, their qualifications. It's just further validation that your team, your organization can do the work the client is requesting. And then cost section. You want to make sure not only is cost everywhere in your RFP, but especially in the discussion. You want to make sure costs are extremely easy to find. Emphasize the value received for those costs. So especially if you're like retaining a client in like advertising, PR, even law, yes, those prices can be like, whoa, shocking at the initial look, but you want to tell them why it's so expensive or why it costs this much. Prove to them, but also brag a little bit about, like, yes, I know this cost can seem a little scary at first, but here are all of the services that we can provide for you. You're pretty much you're investing in your own company. Be clear about add-on cost. So for example, a couple of my clients at the PR agency that I worked for, we hardly did social media. So if the clients wanted any type of social media work, that would have been an extra cost. And we added that in all of our RFPs. Always show the bottom line. Don't tell them an estimated amount. Don't tell them a ballpark range. Give them the bottom line. That's what the client wants to know. And also, it shows your transparency. It shows that that client can trust you because you're being upfront and honest about them. And then lastly, on formal proposals that I wanted to highlight that are a little bit different from informal proposals or formal reports, your conclusion. Your conclusion, I mentioned in a previous couple slides ago, this is where you are trying to leave a lasting good impression. So reinstate like one main benefit that you can offer to this potential client. Summarize the work that needs to be done and reassure the clients that, like, yes, there's a lot of work, but we can do this because of X, Y, and Z. Also, appendices might look a little bit different with formal proposals. This is usually where you include a boilerplate plate, usually for publicly traded companies. Private companies sometimes don't usually include this. Publicly traded companies by law have to list some form of boilerplate on all official documents. This is where you might list resumes of all the major personnel on your team, maybe an organizational chart of your team, company histories, cost charts. So you're going to be talking about costs, but you're, providing a good table breaking down those costs could be helpful. And also detailed schedules or payroll charts. So are you going to be making deliveries consistently? What are those delivery schedules? To highlight the cost, this is the payroll. This is how often we pay our employees. This is how often, not only how often, but this is how much we pay them, hourly salaries. All that information is going to be so important with formal proposals. And we did it. That was a lot. I feel like I really flew through those, but that's because a lot of this information is so similar with the report section. A lot of these rules are similar with regards to formal and informal reports. ABC, you're going to be hearing that a lot consistently. So that's why I kind of flew through it. There are some different aspects. I wanted to highlight that, but as I always say, review the chapter, especially because and when you get into really nitty-gritty details of the reports and proposals, letters and memos, the chapters in the textbook really give great specific examples of what it looks like, what a memo looks like, what a formal report looks like, what a proposal looks like. So always review the textbook so that we can get like an actual like visual understanding of what these drafts look like. So that is the end of this chapter. We went ahead in this module, reviewed reports, and we reviewed proposals. You're also going to be having homework assignments on these chapters. But if you have any questions, any concerns, you're confused, I didn't understand it when you said this, I don't understand any of this, anything that you might have problems with, send me an email, reach out via Canvas, send me a direct message, and we can figure something out. Until then, I will see you with the next chapter. Bye, everyone.